I never asked to be born into a legacy. My name is Ethan Reddick, and from the moment I could walk, it felt like I was living someone else's life. My father, Martin Reddick, wasn't just a man, he was a blueprint. A high-powered attorney. A name carved into brass just outside the doors of Reddick and Bloom, the law firm my grandfather built from nothing. To the world, he was admirable, respected, even feared. To me, he was just impossible. He had my future planned out before I'd even learned to spell my last name. Private school, top grades, law school by 22, and a seat waiting for me at his firm. The golden plan, he called it. Like it was a gift. Like it was for me. But I wasn't like him. From the time I was a kid, I'd see the world in colors, not clauses. While he drilled me on Latin legal terms over breakfast, I'd be mentally sketching the folds in the tablecloth, the shadows on the orange juice glass. At night, while other kids played games or watched TV, I'd sneak into the attic, working under the flicker of a desk lamp, sketching portraits and experimenting with oils I bought secondhand. Art was never just a hobby. It was my oxygen. I kept it hidden for years, God knows I had to. The few times he caught glimpses, he scoffed or muttered under his breath. But I remember the exact day the mask came off. I was 17. I'd just finished a portrait of my mother, a soft pastel piece with delicate details. For the first time, I actually felt proud, like maybe I was good at something. I left it on my desk by accident when I went downstairs. Bad move. Later that evening, I heard his heavy footsteps coming up the stairs. The door slammed open. "What the hell is this?" he barked, holding the sketch like it was a piece of garbage. "It's Mom," I said, instantly regretting it. "You think this matters? You think this is a future? You're throwing away everything for some childish fantasy." "It's not a fantasy," I said, my voice shaking but clear. "It's what I want. I'm not going to be a lawyer." He tore the drawing in half, right down the middle. The sound of the paper ripping felt louder than his shouting. "I have sacrificed everything to give you a name, a path, a future, and this is how you repay me?" "It's my future," I whispered. "Not yours." His eyes went cold. I saw something snap inside him. "If that's how you feel, you can get out. You won't last a week out there without me. And when you crawl back, don't expect anything." I stared at him, waiting for my mother to speak, to intervene, to even flinch. She didn't. That night, I packed a duffel bag. My sketchbooks. A few clothes. What little savings I had. No goodbyes. No words. Just silence. I remember the rain. Not heavy, but sharp, needle drops that soaked my sleeves as I stood under the street lamp, my breath forming clouds in the cold air. I looked back once. The windows were dark. He didn't come after me. I had no plan. No backup. No support. Just a passion that had cost me everything and a fire in my chest that wouldn't burn out. After walking out of my father's house, I crashed on a friend's sofa in a crumbling apartment that always smelled like mold and microwave dinners. No heat. No privacy. No real plan. Every morning, I woke up stiff and cold, pulled my hoodie tighter, and grabbed a part-time job at a dusty secondhand bookstore. It barely paid enough to keep instant noodles on the shelf, but the owner, an old guy named Marvin, let me pin a few of my sketches to the back wall near the cash register. "Kid's got something," he muttered one day, as he squinted at a charcoal portrait of a tired woman holding a cup of coffee. "Pain in the strokes. That's rare." I smiled. It was the first compliment I'd gotten in months. But it didn't pay rent. To survive, I started taking commissions, pet portraits, family sketches, digital logos for local cafes. I even drew a caricature of a guy proposing to his girlfriend at a taco truck. He paid me in cash and a quesadilla. There were nights I almost gave up. Nights I stared at my bank account and felt my stomach turn. I remember once sitting in the alley behind the bookstore, rain dripping off the edge of the fire escape, wondering if my father had been right. "Is this what freedom feels like?" I whispered. "Or am I just being stupid?" One night, as I walked home with a grocery bag full of discount canned soup, my phone buzzed. It was a message from a woman named Danica Vale. "Saw your portrait at the shop. Your style is raw. Honest. You ever done full-scale work?" I stared at the message like it was a glitch. I'd never heard of her. Quick search. She ran a boutique creative studio called Vale Studio that worked with indie film sets and local galleries. I texted back immediately. "I'm interested. What's the project? Come by our space. Bring your portfolio." The next day, I put on the cleanest shirt I owned, stuffed my sketches into a makeshift binder, and took the longest subway ride of my life. Her studio was in a sunlit loft filled with textures, brick, wood, metal, and people with messy hair and sharp eyes. Danica walked in wearing all black, half coffee, half confidence. She flipped through my work slowly, her eyes unreadable. "You're not trained, are you?" "No," I said. "Just obsessed." She smirked. "That's better." That was the first time I felt chosen, not for my last name, not for a resume, but for me. Within weeks, I was painting backdrops, designing album covers, even co-directing visual installations. I wasn't rich, not even close, but I was alive in a way I'd never been before. Then, 2 years later, Danica looked at me across a candlelit bar and said the words that would become the spark behind everything that followed. "You should open your own studio, Ethan. You're ready. Hell, you're better than half the people running this city's scene." I laughed. "What? I'm just surviving." "No," she said, her voice low and serious. "You're building something, and you don't even know it yet." That night, lying on my mattress on the floor, I stared at the ceiling and whispered to the dark. Maybe this isn't the end of my story. Maybe it's just the beginning. 2 years after Danica's words, I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was building. The tiny sparks of recognition had grown into a flame, and I was ready to claim my space on my own terms. "Ethan, this place is perfect," said Maya, my closest friend and a fellow artist, as we stood inside the dusty, abandoned warehouse I had just leased in East London. "It's raw," I smiled, "just like my art." We had spent months renovating the space, paint peeling, brick walls exposed, high ceilings begging for light. This wasn't just a gallery, it was my declaration, my rebellion. The opening night arrived with a storm brewing outside, but inside, the room was electric. Local artists, collectors, even a few bloggers showed up. My paintings hung on the walls, bold, emotional, unapologetic. Danica stood next to me, eyes shining. "You did it, Ethan. You made your own golden plan." I looked around, feeling the weight of every sacrifice, every lonely night. Suddenly, the door creaked open. A man stepped in, familiar, yet unexpected. "Martin," Maya whispered, eyes wide. I turned slowly. My father stood there, soaked from the rain, looking out of place among the art crowd. "Ethan," he said, voice low, "I heard about your gallery." I swallowed hard, my heart pounding in my ears. "What do you want, Dad?" I asked, voice steady but cold. Martin took a step forward. "I came to see for myself. To say I'm proud." I laughed, bitter and raw. "Proud? You disowned me. Told me I was worthless. And now you want a ticket to my success." He winced, then tried again. "I made mistakes. I was wrong." "Wrong," I echoed. "You made my life hell. You made me fight for every inch while you sat comfortably." The crowd hushed, sensing the tension. Martin looked around nervously. "I'm here to make things right." I shook my head, eyes burning. "This isn't about forgiveness. This is about respect, something you never gave me." Danica stepped beside me, whispering, "You don't owe him anything." I looked at my father one last time. "You're not on the list, Dad. You can't come in." Martin's face fell. Defeated, he turned and left, disappearing into the rain. The crowd erupted in applause. Maya grinned. That was cold, but so satisfying. I smiled, the fire in my chest now stronger than ever. Some battles aren't about winning or losing. They're about proving your worth more than they ever thought. And that night I won. Weeks after the gallery opening, the buzz around my name was everywhere. Interviews, social media shoutouts, invitations to art fairs. I was no longer just a starving artist. I was a force. One rainy Thursday afternoon, my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. "Ethan, this is Martin. I want to talk." My heart skipped a beat, but I didn't reply. A few days later, a sleek envelope arrived at the gallery. Inside was an invitation, a formal request from my father to attend a charity gala he was hosting. The event promised celebrity guests, press, and exclusive networking opportunities. I stared at the invitation, my mind racing. Was this a genuine olive branch, or just a way to hitch a ride on my success? I called Maya. "He wants to play nice," I said, holding the card. She frowned. "Or use you. Be careful, Ethan." Still, curiosity gnawed at me. That night, I sat down and typed a reply. "I will come, but I'm not the same boy you pushed away." The gala was a grand affair, chandeliers, champagne, and people who smiled for the camera but whispered behind backs. Martin was waiting near the entrance, impeccably dressed, his smile polished but his eyes wary. "Ethan," he greeted, voice smooth. I'm glad you came. I nodded coolly. I wanted to see what this new world looks like. He laughed softly. It's the world you've earned. As the night unfolded, he took me aside. I was wrong to reject you. Your art, it's exceptional. I looked him dead in the eyes. You only care because it benefits you. You want to use my name now. He sighed. No. I want to make amends. I shook my head. Amends don't come with strings attached. Suddenly, the gala host approached. Mr. Reddick, your speech is in 5 minutes. Martin smiled tightly and glanced at me. After the speech, let's talk. Alone. My skin crawled. I stayed silent. Later, Martin took the stage, delivering a speech praising family, forgiveness, and new beginnings. The crowd applauded. Backstage, he cornered me. Ethan, join me on the board of the foundation. It's time we put the past behind us. I looked around at the crowd, the flashing cameras, the false smiles. I'm not interested in your foundation. Or your forgiveness. He looked desperate. Don't do this, son. We could be unstoppable together. I smiled coldly. I'm unstoppable because I'm on my own. And with that, I turned and walked away. The night of the big exhibition was finally here, the culmination of years of struggle, sacrifice, and relentless passion. The space was filled with guests, murmurs of excitement, and the soft hum of jazz playing in the background. My paintings hung on the walls, each one a piece of my soul laid bare. But before the guests arrived, there was one conversation I couldn't avoid. My mother sat across from me in the quiet of my small studio, the same place where years ago I'd hidden my sketches. Her eyes were heavy with fatigue, and something else. Something that felt like regret. Ethan, she said softly, voice trembling. You have to be ready. Your father, he's not coming to support you. I met her gaze, surprised. Why would he come if he doesn't want to? I replied, keeping my tone steady. She looked away, biting her lip. Because he doesn't care about your art. Not really. To him, you're just a name. A legacy to exploit. He doesn't want you. He wants your success. The fame, the connections. Not you. The words hit harder than I expected. For years I'd hoped she would stand up for me, that she'd shield me from his coldness. But now I realized she was carrying her own pain, her own truths. I see you, Ethan. Not the shadow of a man who never believed in you. I reached across the table, squeezing her hand. Then tonight, I'll show everyone who I really am. The gallery doors opened, and the crowd poured in. Conversations buzzed around me, compliments, offers, admiration. My heart swelled with a mix of pride and disbelief. But when I glanced at the guest list on the entrance wall, where the sponsors and important guests were listed, his name wasn't there. Martin Reddick. Not a single mention. I felt a surge of vindication. The man who had tried to control my life, who'd torn my dreams in half, was nowhere to be seen. And tonight, the spotlight was mine. Halfway through the evening, the unexpected happened. Martin appeared in the doorway. The crowd seemed to hold its breath. He looked around, eyes sharp, searching for me like a man trying to reclaim something lost. Our eyes met. The tension was electric. He approached slowly, clearing his throat. Ethan, he said, voice low, I see you've built quite the reputation. I folded my arms, steady and calm. I built my reputation. He smiled, thin and forced. Your mother said you were using my name. She was wrong. I laughed, a bitter sound. You're the one who tried to use me, as a trophy, a legacy. But this, I gestured around the gallery. This is mine. I earned every inch. His gaze flicked to the guest list again, the glaring omission of his own name. I'm not on the list, he said, as if discovering a wound. That's because you're not part of this story, I replied. Not anymore. There was a long pause. Then he said quietly, Can we talk? Alone? No, I said firmly. Tonight, this is about me. Not you. I raised my glass and said, To those who believed in me, even when I couldn't, this gallery isn't just my art. It's my rebellion, my freedom. And it's just the beginning. The applause swelled, and I knew I had finally claimed my own name. Outside, the rain fell in steady sheets. Martin stood alone, watching the gallery glow from across the street. A man left out in the cold by the very sun he tried to control. I smiled to myself. Some legacies are meant to be broken, and some stories are meant to be written by those brave enough to take the pen.